Is this thing on? Good. What's up, guys? Mischief Mag is here. Today I'm going to talk about the sun. I figured I was going to get into the Thema Mundi, which is the theoretical birth of the universe chart. It didn't happen and it doesn't exist, but some old guys thought that it would be reasonable to come up with a way to instruct people on why they set up the exaltations, domiciles, stuff like that for all of the planets. It's actually really helpful. If you have some time or you're very curious, I highly recommend you check it out. You can just Wikipedia it, or you can just look it up on Google. The Thema Mundi. It's not hard to find. I'm going to do it a little bit more, but to be honest, I'm not doing it right now because I have to do a little bit more reading on it so that I can explain it a little bit better. It's kind of simple, but at the same time, it's kind of not. And if you think about how people really thought to put the whole thing together, it's pretty wild. Anyway, this is a video about the sun, not the Thema Mundi. So I know that some people who are watching are probably going to have pretty dignified suns, and also people that will not. But I want to give a basic rundown on what each of the 7 planets rules classically. So this can include stones, people, plants, afflictions and diseases, as well as what they should act like and what they won't act like if they're not well dignified. And this is all, you really have to look at the entire chart. It's not just, oh, your sun is in the 7th house, so you're an asshole, or something like that. That's not how it's going to work. It would be like, oh, your sun is angular in the 7th house, and it has no aspects against other planets, so you'll probably be finding attractive and powerful people in your life that you will be ruled over, or something like that. And if it's in Leo, all the better. Typically, that's kind of how it plays out for a lot of the planets, but I'm kind of rambling at this point, so I want to give you a clear list of what these planets represent, and this is going to be very essential for you when you come down to following me long enough to watch me actually perform the magic rituals. I have all my shit laid out, and I pick things like that for a reason, and this is why. So what I'm reading from is from SkyScript, which I have referred to a couple of times. This is one of the first websites that I found. It's founded by Deb Holding, who's really, really good at astrology, and a lot of other people are very, very well known with this. So on SkyScript, you can look up the planets, their traditional rulerships, and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to read a few of them to you so you get a basic idea, and if you're ambitious and curious enough, you are more than welcome to look on there. It's not my website, but I highly recommend it as a reference. So, in the ancient times, the sun is obviously known as Sol, and Phoebus is one of them. I can't remember if Phaeton is also one. That might be Saturn or Jupiter, I can't remember. Apollo, of course. These are probably the 3 most common names that I would probably use: Apollo, Phoebus, and Sol. Obviously the sun rules Leo by both day and night, because as we said, the lights only have one sign, excuse me. Cancer gets assigned to the moon, and Leo gets assigned to the sun. So also, as we had mentioned before, the sun is exalted in Aries and it falls in Libra. This is because Aries comes around when springtime comes around. This is when it starts to get hotter. Libra is when it gets cooler and when it starts to not be as hot. So that's why the sun is fallen in Libra, because all of his heat is kind of gets cooler around that time of year. We also do triplicities. He rules the fire triplicity by day, which is something that I haven't gotten in with you guys. It's a little bit more complex than domiciles and exaltations, as well as terms and faces. I'd like to get to those at some point, but you don't really have to worry about those right now. So the nature of the sun, he's masculine, hot and dry temperamentally. He's not excessively hot and dry like Mars. And if he's well placed, such as in Aries or in Leo, he's a fortune. The other fortunes are Jupiter and Venus. So if he's in good position like Aries or Leo, he's a fortune. He's pretty good. So here's some people that are signified by the sun. Now, you're probably not going to need to know this when you come to magic rituals, but just to give you an idea of what the sun represents, this is what I'm trying to do. It represents kings, princes, any kind of ruler like that. Pretty much noblemen, great huntsmen, majors, sheriffs, just men pretty much in general. If you think of a king, that's pretty much what the sun is. Typically, it's supposed to be a guy who rules over in a castle on a hill high above everyone else. Kind of makes sense. So here's some interesting stuff that I actually didn't know. So I'm reading the anatomies and illnesses. Pimples in the face, palpitations or trembling, or any diseases of the brain or heart, because the sun rules the heart, also the back. Tympanies, I don't know what that is. Infirmaries of the eyes, cramps, sudden swoonings, diseases of the mouth, and stinking breaths, as well as rotten fevers. And principally in man, he governs the heart, the brain, and right eye. The moon governs the left eye. And vital spirit. In woman, he governs the left eye, which is actually what I'm reading, so I thought that was interesting. So, you don't really need to know that. You're not going to say, oh, I mean, you can if you want to say that, or, you know, if you want to stave away bad illnesses, I'm sure that you could probably work something out. I don't do that because I'm a simple man and I just throw stuff together that is ruled by the sun. But if you want to be ambitious and you have those things, you can probably ask him to help you out with those. Not guaranteed, but so here's this is starting to get into where I like it. Colors. I mean, it's simple stuff, really. What does the sun rule? Well, what does the sun look like? Gold, yellow, saffron, some reddish colors, and some, it says here, some people say purple. I wouldn't use purple for the sun, but I don't think it's a bad idea, since back in the olden times, purple was a very, I think, elegant and hard to create color, so it would be probably worn by kings. That's my assumption. But I would stick with gold and saffron and yellow, if we're being honest. I think that that's probably what colors you could wear. Now, when you do rituals, I highly recommend you wear these colors, just because it makes you look like you actually take it seriously. Like, don't do it in your underwear or in a tank top. Don't look like a slob. I mean, you're talking to celestial spirits. I would highly recommend. It'd be like going to an interview in your boxers. Yeah, I'm here. And they're like, I can see that. I would wear something gold. And eventually you'll see my robe, which I have held off from wearing because, well, I want to save it. But it also goes on about savors and smells. Sun likes mixtures of sour and sweet stuff. Personally, I think frankincense is a great one. Anything that's got a little sharpness to it, but it's also sweet. Lately I've been using citrus oil, so like, you know, oranges and lemons work. I made a incense full of lemon peel and orange peel, and I shaved them up and burned them. It worked out pretty well until I let it sit too long and it got a little moldy. Don't do that. Use it if you're gonna make it. So that's the idea about the colors and savors. Those are some of the general ideas. Now here's another huge one. Eventually I'm going to get into witching herbs with Harold Roth. I'm not actually going to be with him, but I'm going to read from his book. It's a book that I highly recommend for all aspiring astrological talismanic mages, because most of the plants are under a certain planet and they are part of them. That's what I think. It says here, the plants subject to the sun smell pleasantly and are of good flavor. Their flowers are yellow or reddish, are in growth of majestical form, and they love open and sunny places. Their principal virtue is to strengthen the heart and comfort the vitals, to clear eyesight, resist poison, or dissolve any witchery or malignant planetary influences. So again, a couple plants that I can think of off the top of my head: frankincense, bay leaves, I use these, saffron, sunflowers. Sunflowers are huge because if you look at them, they face the sun. I mean, they look like a fucking sun. Like, that's kind of why they're called sunflowers. This is the idea. Ginger is also ruled by the sun. Balm, cinnamon, marigold, amber, St. John's wort. I use St. John's wort as tea sometimes if I want to have a little chat with the sun if I'm doing a ritual. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to use that because I'm running out this time, but I've used it before and I put a little bit of honey in it when the ritual is taking place, and I mean, I feel like I'm talking to someone. I don't know. Peony seeds and plants, Peony. I think they're called peony or peony, I don't know. I wanted to get a plant of that, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. So those are some ideas for plants. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to go a little bit more in depth with this and go into Nicholas Culpeper. Now, Culpeper is probably the greatest plant mage who ever lived. I mean, he was a doctor, and then he died of tuberculosis, which is really sad. But he was super, super smart. If you have time, look up the book Complete Herbal, and you can look up other Nicholas Culpeper stuff. He goes into intense detail about a lot of plants. I mean, it's not all of them, but he was in England, so they're probably plants that you can find in the UK. I should go over the places, but pretty much dining rooms, halls for acting, king's throne rooms, stuff like that. If you step into your CEO's office, I'm going to assume that that's probably ruled by the sun. Not 100%, because nothing in life is guaranteed, or 100%. It could be ruled by Saturn, because Saturn also rules that stuff sometimes, or Jupiter. But I would say safely, if it's your boss or a person of authority and they have an office, that's probably going to be under the rule of the sun. This is another one that I like a lot, the stones. So what minerals and stones does the sun rule? Well, I can tell you right now, gold's one of them. Each of the 7 planets gets a mineral that they rule. And I will probably go over these later, but I'll just go over them all now. So the sun rules gold, moon rules silver. Mercury rules quicksilver, or mercury, the little liquid metal that if you inhale it, you get poisoned to die. Venus rules copper. Mars rules iron. Jupiter rules tin, because it's it's temperate and you can melt and mold it easily. And Saturn rules lead. I think that's all of them. So if you want to make a talisman, there's no better idea than to make one in the planet's metal that you want to do. Of course, we don't all have a forge out back, so I guarantee you're probably not going to be able to do that. Plus, gold and silver and mercury are not easy to come by, especially if you want to make an ounce. An ounce of gold will run you about $2,500, probably more. So, I mean, if you got money to do that, that's awesome. I wish I could, but then again, I still don't have a forge. Either way, I digress. I definitely think that if you want to make a talisman, make it in the metal of the planet. Of course, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to make construction paper talismans. It sounds stupid, but they still work. Just make one. It sounds easier than it really is, but you make one, draw some stuff on it, hold it over the incense, recite some stuff, meditate, and then you do that however many number of days that it's required. So, going back to the stones, he rules gold. Duh. He also rules hyacinth, chrysolite, adamant, carbuncle, and these are weird. It says the elite stone found in eagles' nests. I'm just going to go down and see what it says. Garnet. That's one. It also rules opal, interestingly enough. And the argument for that is because when you shine light on the opal, it creates all the colors. And it's my favorite stone, and I wish I had an awesome opal ring, but I don't. But if you get or have opal, I would wear it if you're praying to the sun. Also, I'm not sure if this is entirely true, but yellow-green stones like peridot are also ruled by the sun. Incidentally, they're also ruled by Mercury. If you read Agrippa, he rules some yellow-green stones. You can count me as incorrect on that, but that's from what I remember reading about. So, typically that's kind of a basic sort of rundown on what the sun rules. Now, looking at my altar right now, I can already tell you that I don't have gold or any of most of the things that I mentioned. So what I did was I got some peridots and I got some citrine. And citrine is also ruled by the sun. Pretty much any orange or yellow stone works, okay? And you can have frankincense incense if you just go to a store. I recommend getting natural incense if you can. If you can't, you can always make some. So, also, he rules, I have an ash and oak wand because originally I only had 2 talismans. One for the sun and one for Jupiter. Now, Jupiter rules oak trees and the sun rules ash trees. You can look it up. I'm completely 100% correct on this conviction, and that's what I did. I made sure to be this way before I bought the wand. I use it, not as much as I'd like, but I do use it. Also, I do have a small bit of gold, actually. It's really pathetically small. It's like that small. I mean, it's gold. I mean, what do you want? So that's the idea. Also, while I'm thinking about it, the sun rules the number 6. I probably should go back and check why that is, because some sources say he rules the number 4 for the 4 corners of the sky, and some say that he rules the number 10 because 0 and 1 signify the complete cycle of the original 10 numbers. I don't know if I would put much salt or stock in the other two, because I know that Agrippa says that 6 is the number that the sun rules. He argues that 6 is the most supreme number and it holds all the other numbers because 79, 10, they have other combinations with them. It's hard to explain, but I do know that 6 is what the number of the sun is. And as an example, Mercury's number is 8 and Jupiter's number is 4. So that's kind of a basic rundown on what the sun rules. I really want to get into more of what Agrippa says, because then it goes into stuff like what the animals are. Like I have a tiny stone figurine lion for the sun, and I have an eagle for Jupiter, and I have a frog for Mercury. And the reason for this is the eagle is assigned to Jupiter, and frogs, well, Mercury is trans everything, and frogs can change their sex. So why not? He rules a bunch of other stuff. I think he rules ferrets and foxes and like parrots. He rules parrots too because they talk a lot. Most speaking animals are what Mercury rules. It's really wild how it works. A couple of the other things. So I'm trying to think, but the only ones that I can remember offhand for Jupiter, I know that this is for the sun, but I just wanted to mention. So Jupiter also has some rulership over male deer, so stags and elephants. I don't know why that is, but I think it's any wise animal. So wise, gentle. I mean, stags aren't going to really charge at you, but they could if you piss them off. And elephants are smart enough, then they might, cause trouble, but they are smart. Also dolphins. So those are stuff that Jupiter rules. I have to go back and take a look at what the sun rules. If you want to be, smart about it or meticulous, lion is probably the best thing you could probably pick. Or a cat or some such thing. Any kind of ruling animal, like wolves, dogs, I think the sun also rules. Wolves, I know that. So if you have a wolf, that's cool. Have him pray with you or something. So I wanted to send this out because I'm going to be away for the weekend, and I think I'm going to make another video, which I will create in just a minute. Okay, thanks guys. Hope you keep watching.